I've said before that Gundam is often at odds with itself, unable to come to terms with the fact that it is both an anti-war anime and a franchise that makes millions of dollars by making war mechs for enthusiasts to build. What's more, this dichotomy is often lost on your typical entry in any one of the official canons of Gundam. Some skirt around this by downplaying the horrors of war, like G Gundam, and others by overplaying the personal melodrama, like Gundam Seed. And yet there is one OVA in the Universal Century timeline that embraces this philosophical friction, so much so that it plays down to its very core and themes. Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, War in the Pocket. Released in 1989, 0080 was a first on a number of fronts. It was the first OVA in the entire franchise, and no you pedants, the first SD Gundam episode released in 1988 was a theatrical short, not an OVA, and the second episode was released several months after the first episode of 0080. And it was the first Gundam not directed by creator Yoshiyuki Tomino. Instead, it was helmed by a relative newcomer, Fumihiko Takayama. All things considered, this was a brave direction for Sunrise to go, especially since this was made to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Mobile Suit Gundam. Which blows my mind, personally speaking. You celebrate your anniversary by making an anime that is unlike anything you've made before. Bold move, gotta say. Not only that, it's a gut check of an anime, a cold slap in the face that forces the viewer to deal with its themes of war and innocence lost. While that can make it a challenge to watch, I believe that it makes 0080 not only one of the best chapters in Gundam, it's also one of the best OVAs ever made. Still, I need to make it clear that because I want people to watch War in the Pocket, I'm not going to go over every plot point of it, and I'll try to avoid spoiler talk as much as I can. However, I will be talking about certain scenes and character motivations that might lead one to guess what will happen, and that's not my intention in the slightest. So if you have any interest in this, stop this review right here and go get yourself a copy. It's readily available on Amazon.com and it will be a welcome addition to your collection. For everyone else, this is War in the Pocket. Set in a colony during the waning days of the One-Year War, the story follows a precocious 10-year-old boy named Alfred, whose mind always seems to wander over to the war. But having lived outside of the conflict for as long as he has, he doesn't fully grasp the gravitas of what the war has wrought, only the excitement that battle brings.
My mom says we've less stuff now because of the war with the Zeon and the Federation.
Hey, what do you mean the war with the Zeon and the Federation? They don't have the slightest thing to do with us at all.
He and his friends, like most boys their age, spend most of their time trying to one-up each other, either by collecting war memorabilia or saying they have family in the war effort. Essentially, it all boils down to a pissing contest where the winner is the boy who finally gets to say, "Oh yeah, well my dad works at Nintendo." As Alfred daydreams about the war, all the while playing games that remind him of it, that also reminds us of Super Mario Bros. 3. The war eventually finds him and the rookie Zeon pilot Bernie Wiseman, who crashes his Zaku mobile suit during a skirmish in Alfred's colony. At first, Bernie is annoyed and exasperated by Alfred's enthusiasm, but they strike an odd friendship.
Do you think the captain will change his mind?
Change his mind about what, Al?
About you being a pilot.
Huh?
Maybe he'll let you fly the mobile suit instead of Misha.
Don't worry about who's going to be the pilot, all right? I'll get my chance to be an ace soon enough.
What's interesting to me is that Alfred knows that Bernie is a Zeon pilot, but because he lives in a neutral zone, he doesn't think of the Principality as the enemy. The story uses this choice of setting to help erase the bad guy versus good guy narrative that the series had used up until this point. Sure, Char and a number of other characters than Zeon were given more depth and humanity over the course of the franchise's history, but there was no mistaking who was in the wrong. Here, however, Alfred and his classmates are so far removed from the war, they're not even sure if the Federation has mobile suits.
He's making it up. The Federation doesn't even have any mobile suits, you dummies.
In the end, it didn't matter if Bernie was a pilot for the Federation or the Principality. He's a soldier, and for a 10-year-old boy like Alfred, that's all that matters. After all, if you're going to play cowboys and Indians, someone has to be the Indians. Alfred to me is a rare thing in anime, a child character that actually acts like a child. He's petulant, prone to taking foolhardy bets, doesn't take his schooling seriously, and lies to his mother about his grades. But at the exact same time, his situation is all too familiar. His parents are separated, he's often left alone by his mother for work or other duties. You can easily tell why Alfred latched himself onto Bernie.
Captain is sure gonna love this. Huh? Al? What are you up to?
And, well, there's just no other way of putting it. The kid's an endearing little shit. He has his annoying moments as befitting a kid his age, but it's all tempered by how clever he can be, using his precocious nature almost like a weapon to get adults to do what he wants.
That battle happened to my dad. He... Give me back my dad.
Now, kid, we know how you feel, but it's not the feds, it's all the Zeon's fault. Now, don't do anything crazy like this again, you understand? Huh?
Kid, you are so damned evil you'd put X-Lax in Santa's milk and cookies. And I love you for it. As for Bernie, it seems he views Alfred less like a little brother at first and more like a subordinate, allowing himself a chance to not be the bottom of the totem pole for a change.
Hey man, sorry, that's really too bad, losing a Zaku on your first time out. They'll get you for this.
Lay off, will ya?
Bet they'll send you to Solomon, another wasted sacrifice to the war. I said, lay off!
Being the rook he is, Bernie catches all sorts of crap from his comrades, and since he's been ordered with his platoon to infiltrate Alfred's colony and suss out the existence and location of the Federation's new Gundam, it's not like he's in a position to make friends. But in Alfred, he finally feels like he has somebody on his side. Exaggerated exploits notwithstanding.
Hey, Bernie, so sorry. Only 1 kill in your race, huh?
You only have 4 under your belt? I figured you would at least gotten 20 by now.
The platoon, meanwhile, sees Alfred as a valuable ally in their reconnaissance mission and recruits him to find evidence of the Gundam, and thus Alfred's wish is finally granted as he gets to play war. One of the key aspects of 0080 is the notion of innocence in turbulent times. We see Alfred as your typical kid, but contrasted against a terrible situation. His colony is at the heart of a tipping point in the 1-year war, with the possible peace looming on the horizon being snuffed out by the Federation illegally building a weapon in a neutral zone. But even as this conflict spills over to Alfred's everyday life, he seems unconcerned about the damage it wrought and the lives it took. He skips over piles of rubble, he hardly stops his stride as he passes by collapsed houses that have people trapped inside. But he doesn't do this out of callousness. He's just unable to process what's actually happening. In this regard, the OVA almost approaches giant mech genre deconstructionist territory, and for my money, it does it way better than Evangelion, simply by having Alfred not be the one to go inside the robot. The whole conceit of the giant mech genre of teenage pilots at the controls of death machines has been a thoroughly explored one, even outside of anime. But with 0080, the spin of Alfred involving himself in the conflict is made all the more palpable and hard-hitting by the twofold fact that he isn't the one at the controls, which does away with the mental gymnastics that comes with that, and that he actively wants to participate in the conflict.
Are you gonna fight the feds with this, Captain?
No, Alfred. It's just for when we get off of this colony, that's all.
What? You're not gonna fight? You're just gonna run away?
Well, if the Feddies attack us, then we'd have to consider it.
It's hard to pin a message of kids have no place in war if the kid in question is being coerced or forced into war, because at that point, who should really be taking the message? The kid or the adults? Whereas with Alfred, his eagerness to help coupled with his naivete play perfectly against the devastation he and his colony are about to experience. Surrounded by his equally unaffected friends, Alfred has to learn a harsh lesson from reality.
Check this out. Cool, huh?
Huh?
Ta-da! And this is just today's haul. Oh yeah, the smell is still fresh. Want to smell them?
That the story designates him audience proxy only solidifies the deconstructionist angle. At the end of the day, what is Alfred but a hardcore Gundam otaku?
Right, sir. Petty Officer Izaruha moving out.
As the series flows from episode to episode, the gravitas of the situation finally dawns on Alfred, culminating in one of the most tragic endings in the entire Gundam canon. Alfred learns the terrible price war makes you pay, surrounded by his classmates who, none the wiser, try to assure him to not worry. There'll probably be another exciting war happening soon. The ending is almost O. Henry-like an execution, with lighthearted, optimistic music playing under the entire scene, galvanizing the contradicting sentiments. My only real gripe with the ending is that there's a twist that feels like there's no foundation for it happening. If you've seen the OVA, then you probably know what I'm talking about, but to put it in a way that won't directly spoil anything, while the twist leads to the dramatic weight of the ending and the reason why it hits so hard, I feel like it could have been better set up instead of sprung on the audience like it was. There is enough to hint that maybe Commander Helsing here had more of a hand in what happened than what 0080 showed, but really, it's all speculation on the audience's part. At the very least, if the OVA was more clear in that regard, it wouldn't have had to rely on a character telling the audience what happened instead of, showing us what happened. Still, the ending cannot be detracted from and elevates War in the Pocket from a good OVA to a great OVA. One final note, much like our previous episode on Endless Waltz, 0080 situates itself around Christmas time, and also like Endless Waltz, Christmas is used mainly as background noise and flavor, up until the last episode. Once again, not going into spoilers, but hot damn does it approach Home Alone territory. And that's a good thing. If I haven't made myself clear by now, I want to reiterate how much I want everyone to see Gundam 0080. Even if you can only watch it the once, it's more than worth your investment. It's beautiful, tragic, and at times a bit silly. It's everything Gundam has striven to be for its entire length of existence, an enthralling anti-war anime that hits all the marks. Well, Gundam Sember ended a lot later than I would have liked, but in the end, I feel like I've done my job. But it is the new year, and with it comes a chance for us to look ahead and... Wait a minute. This is January! Fuck that shit! Here's some boring-ass crap! Till next time.